is Trucker's Corner with Trucker Glen.
Hey everybody, it is Ray Gaucher, Trucker Ray with Trucker Glen, and welcome to another edition of Trucker's Corner. How are you, my friend? How is things today?
Things are wonderful, Ray. How are you?
Good. You're looking really good. You look like you just went through some really good grooming.
Yes, I did. Well, 75 looks good on me, eh?
Oh, when did you turn 75?
Yeah, just turned 75. Had a lovely birthday. Everything
was that recent?
A couple of parties. Yeah, it was on the 29th.
Oh wow! Happy birthday! I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I dropped several hints, but you didn't take the hints.
I didn't. I got so much going on. That's my excuse.
Yeah.
So today we have a very interesting topic. What are we going to be talking about today, sir?
We're going to be talking about, is your equipment safe for the road?
That's a really big subject. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a subject we've touched on it before, and it all depends on the companies that you're driving for. A lot of companies will tell you to just take it out and get it going, but we were talking before the show that I saw a trailer going down the road, and I was probably 2-3 car lengths behind the trailer, and I could read the sign on the side of the trailer. That's how bad it was dog tracking.
Yeah.
And that's a no-no. Like, I don't know what they're like in Canada, but down south they'll pull you over and make you fix it.
I see a lot of that.
Yeah,
in the US.
I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. It is,
and especially the tridems, when you're twisting them around, that's really hard on there. Loaded, when you're backing into a place loaded, it's really hard on your suspension.
Well,
so
I don't even know why people would even. I mean, how can they not notice that when I'm behind a vehicle like that and I can read the logo on the side of the trailer and I'm right behind it? That's a problem. They can't see that because if it's dog tracking one way, their other mirror should be able to see the logo through their mirror. I mean, when you leave the yard, can you not see that?
I don't know that. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he said that a gravel truck pulled in to fuel up. Of course, they got to lift their box up to fuel up to get to their fuel tanks, and he left with his box up.
Oh man!
How do you not see that stuff? Like, and we've had major incidences with hitting overpasses, and just oblivious. And I think, everybody's got to start getting serious about equipment and how they're driving and put the professionalism back in it. And, when you're hooking up to a strange piece of equipment, your truck inside and out, you've got it all tuned up and ready to go. But when you're hooking up, especially making switches in the yard or switches, some companies make switches right out on the road, and you don't know what you're getting. A lot of times a guy's happy to get rid of the trailer and somebody else's problem, right?
So that was a dump truck?
Yeah, that was a dump truck. We've had 3 or 4 overpasses hit in the last couple of months because the boxes were up.
So what do you think the issue is inside the truck? Do you think the alarm system isn't working? Because it should warn the driver that the box is up.
I don't know that a lot of them have it. I know they're calling for the companies to put warning systems in them. I don't know if a lot of them have it.
That would be weird.
But I mean, you know yourself, Ray, how many times you look in your mirrors, or you're looking left and right as much as you're looking ahead. And I couldn't believe it. I thought we've had so much coverage on the news about drivers with their dump boxes up or their loads too high, or and that's one thing. If you're picking up a trailer with a high load, we talked about this before. Like, don't touch it if it's over height, and you don't have the proper paperwork. That's a big one. That's a major one.
That is a real nightmare, especially. I can't tell you, like, look at the train bridge on 232nd there on Highway 1 there in the Lower Mainland in the Vancouver area.
Yeah.
Look at all the chunks out of that train bridge.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have seen it, Ray.
It's crazy.
I know.
Can you imagine hitting something like that? That would be just, that would be like, okay, I'm done. My career is done. I couldn't imagine that.
Well, there is a truck pulled out of Chilliwack again, out of Lickman Road in BC there, and I guess he just hooked up to this load, and the first overpass he was too high, and I don't know if it was a modular home he was hauling or what, but it was bits, parts, and pieces. It just exploded everywhere. So obviously he didn't get out and check the height.
I don't know why people would not do that. They don't have a tape measure? My goodness. I mean, if I seen something that high, I'd be checking it. I mean, I have a regular standard height trailer, and as you were mentioning on my last video when I was heading through Michigan, those bridges were, what was it, 13.4 or something like, or no, it was 13.8.
Yeah.
13.8.
Yeah.
And you were saying that, my gosh, is he going to make it under that thing? And even I was getting a little bit nervous, but that is a regular standard height. And if you have something that's higher than that, why would you not check that? I don't get that. I mean, and we're talking about knowing the equipment before you go out. I mean, if it's a preloaded flat deck. But the main thing we wanted to discuss, it's just the amount of unsafe vehicles and trailers that are out there on the road. And if you're new to a company and you're given a truck, you really got to go over that thing with a fine-tooth comb. You really do. And every trailer that you pick up, you might think, okay, I'm hooking to it. My dispatch said it's okay. And now I'm just going to take it out of the yard. I did my little pre-trip. I thumped the tires. Everything's good. But did you really thoroughly check that trailer? Because you're responsible for that. You are looking at huge consequences if something goes wrong, or the wheels fall off or whatever because you didn't check, or the wheel bearings or whatever. I mean, what are some of the things that when you were driving, when you would hook up to a trailer or a flat deck? You used to do flat deck too, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I probably did more flat deck than I did van work.
So what is it that you would look at that you would think, okay, I need to check this because this, what were some of the things that you checked because, and you didn't leave the yard unless you were comfortable with that it was safe?
Right. Well, in the day, of course, we used to set our own brakes up in my day. And you always looked at the inside of the tires, because if you had a wheel seal that was going, of course it sprays oil all over the inside of your tires.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I would check. I would check hub oil, make sure that you can see the hub oil in the sight glass there on your axle, and your lug nuts. If there's rust coming down from the lug nuts, then you could better stop pretty quick and get them checked, get them retorqued or whatever. You don't hear so much of wheels falling off in Canada, but I know when I was going south, there was a lot of wheels that fell off trucks or trailers because they weren't being retorqued or checked, and of course that's a major one. When that happens, if it hits a car or whatever, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
But those were the two major things. The airlines, I've seen airlines, I picked up trailers, and they're like, the airlines are so down low, they're about 2 inches off the ground, and I used to just take a bungee cord and wrap the bungee cord around them and hook them up so they're at least a foot or two off the ground, because in this weather particularly, once you start going through snow, of course it weights down, and those lines are on a big spring. And a lot of times I'd even take a bungee cord and hook it where the spring goes into the coupler where the airlines are, and because it seems to be a little bit stronger than that spring, obviously. And then when the snow gets on it, it'll weight it down a bit, but not as much as there's just having the spring there. And so those are some of the major things. Also, lights. You know yourself, you go down south and they don't care if you got 1 million lights on the trailer and truck, but they all better be working. And signals and brake lights and whatever, and put your spike down on your trailer when your trailer's low. You load the air up on it and see if you got any air leaks. That's another thing.
Use a bungee cord.
Diaphragm. There could be a diaphragm leaking in the one of the brake pots.
Yeah, I usually take a bungee cord and hook it up to it and hook it up to the bottom of my seat, and then it pulls the spike down. And not only can you check your brakes, your brake lights with that, but you can check for air leaks. One thing that I noticed too about, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have seen this in yards where drivers will hook up to a trailer, just a regular trailer, and they hook up, they roll up the landing gear, they might thump the tires, and they're gone. And their pre-trip lasted literally 2 minutes. Well, sometimes it takes longer than that to air up the airbags. And I am saying this from personal experience. I've done this before earlier in my days of driving, where I hooked up to a trailer, did my pre-trip or whatever, but there was an issue with one of the airbags, or two of the airbags in the back, and I didn't realize it because I didn't look. And then I drove out, and then I noticed that that trailer was bouncing all over the place. I'm like, what's going on here? Something was wrong. Until I pulled over and realized that two of the airbags in the very back, something was wrong, or the air wasn't getting to them. And that was my fault. So I'm saying this from personal experience. That's another thing, too. You want to thump your tires? I always go around now, and I take my hammer, and I just tap the airbags one at a time as I go around, just to make sure they're inflated, because you don't want to be driving down the road and you've got three airbags working, but one or not working, and you got one that does. It's not going to take much to blow that airbag, and when those airbags go, it's like a shotgun. They're really loud. Yeah, and the trailer doesn't doesn't track properly, and it affects so many things, but little things like that, like I'm the same as you. I've seen guys, when they stop for coffee, they run out of the truck as quick as they can and grab the coffee and have a bathroom break and run back in and go. Well, they've been driving for 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. We don't know if you've got a flat tire or, like you say, the air, and it's, nobody likes to take the time to do it, but it's better to do it when you're at when you're near a restaurant or a mechanical shop, than to do it when you're on top of the Rogers Pass or some pass, Wolf Creek Pass or whatever, and then you're hooped. What do you do? Better safe than sorry. Yeah. And you know what? It's funny you mention that, because I would say that I'm a little bit obsessive when it comes to checking my trailer. Even when I get out, like when I would stop, say, at the port of entry in Wyoming, as you know, you got to go show your IFTA when you go there. Yeah. I go in there, you're out of there in 5 minutes, but I'll still go around and check my tires and make sure no one's tampered with my back doors, and I check my kingpin to make sure no one's pulled it. And chances are that no one's done that, and out of all the time that I've done this and been checking this for years, I've never once ever had anybody pull my pin, but it'll be the one time that I won't look. Yeah. And someone will not like the company you're working for, or they might have an anger. Maybe you passed them the wrong way or whatever. You just don't know. People are weird or psycho. All it takes is for them to pull that pin. And that's another thing too. Really thoroughly check and make sure that your fifth wheel is in order, because there was one driver with this company where his fifth wheel was not working properly. I don't really know if the jaws would have released, but what happened is that because something went wrong, it actually locked the jaws in. He could not detach from it, which is a safety feature. But I get nervous when I see that little jaw holding that little kingpin, and that's pulling the whole trailer. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. There's nothing wrong with being a little bit obsessive compulsive when it comes to that. It's never a bad idea to be extra safety minded. Yeah. Yeah, another thing too, check your side rails on the trailer, because sometimes you'll have cracks in the side rails. Yeah. And with these 53 footers now, the side rails, the roof rails on the top of your trailer, the cross beams, everything is part of the frame. And I was told by a mechanic one time, when he was just going over my trailer before I pulled it out of the shop, and he said, we're going to have to put weld a little plate over you got a crack on the side of your rail. And I said, well, it's only a little crack. He said, under the right conditions, he said, if you hit a bump in the road, he said, your trailer could break right in half. Wow. He said it's really crucial. So you see any little cracks coming up on the side, you better do something. At least mention it to it, and again, put it on your Qualicum or in writing, so that you've got your butt covered. And
you know. But normally these companies they'll want to check that stuff right away. And your reefer too, you know, like you say, when you're doing your pre-trip, you get your reefer going, you see if it's going to defrost, if it's, you know, the fuel flow is good, your belts are good, there's no water leaks.
Got enough coolant?
Got enough coolant, yeah.
Coolant and oil?
Yeah, and it's, you know, because these things, you know, although it takes time when you're pre-trip to do, it really saves you hours and sometimes days in the long run because you're not broke down somewhere.
Would you say it's fair to say that there's more of a chance of a trailer that you're picking up to be a problem than obviously your regular truck, because you drive your regular truck every day, you're checking it all the time, it goes through regular maintenance probably at your yard. Right. So I would say the biggest concern would be the trailers. That's the biggest problem I see out there.
Yeah.
Bad dog tracking, and you can see the rims where there's oil all over the rims, and some guys driving down the road with the tires smoking and everything. So a lot of those trailers shouldn't even be on the road, and you see a lot of that from the trailers that come up from Mexico as well.
Yeah, and trailers, like you say, they're the most overlooked part of the equipment. Well, you know, it got in here okay, so it must be okay for me to continue on with it. And, you know, the driver that brought it in ahead of you was probably, you know, wore his rosary beads out praying that it's going to get to the yard.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, and you know, it looks bad on you when you pull across a scale and you've got a sketchy trailer. You know, the first question they always say is, why did you leave the yard with a trailer in this shape, you know? And you don't have an answer, because you know darn well, you look at it and you think, man, oh man.
Yeah.
So.
And again, the bottom line is, driver, you are completely responsible for that trailer and the load that's inside of it. And especially how often, and this is another thing that's overlooked, which is surprising, the tires themselves. They'll go around, they'll thump them, and they'll walk around, and they're not really looking at them. I can't tell you how many trailers I have picked up in the past years where I'm like, at the company you and me worked for, what on earth, this shouldn't even be on the road. Look at these tires, man. They're bald. Oh, they still have 0.5 of a millionth of a millimeter in there. They're still legal. Okay, well, what about all the wiring hanging off of it? That's okay? All right. If you don't care, we don't care.
That's right. I picked up a trailer at our place that we worked there, and I was doing a tug test on the trailer, so I banged about, I don't know, 40 or 50 pounds, whatever your spike will load on the trailer. Didn't make a difference, just moved ahead. And I thought, well, that's weird. And the brakes were completely gone on it. They were so far gone you couldn't even set them up. So, needless to say, that one didn't go on the road. At least not by me, anyways.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And a company like that, which was real sticklers for safety, they'll run into issues like that. So what about all these other companies out there, these 2-bit trucking companies that pop up? You know, there's a different trucking company every day, ABC Trucking, you know, whatever. Are they really taking care of their equipment like that? Probably not. So, and one other thing, we're going to wrap this up too there, Glenn, that not only made sure that the equipment that you have is in good working order when you leave your yard, or if you're picking it up somewhere, keep your eyes out for the other trailers around you, because I remember one time driving down the road and I seen this trailer go by, and the guy had one of his bogies on the back of his trailer. It was going blah, 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 blah. And you know, sometimes you'll hear that when one's going by, and you're like, okay, whatever. Literally, it was going blah, 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 blah. The whole tire was doing this, and it was on the radio trying to get the guy's attention. I even called the number on the side of the trailer. This guy's wheel is going to fall off. And I hit the horn, and I hit the horn, and he's waving at me. I'm like, so whatever. Called the dispatch, and the dispatch them says, yeah, we're trying to reach the driver, but he's not answering. I'm like, oh, this is not good. So you could get on the phone and call the police, but I can think of 5 times at least that I've called the police when I've seen things like that, and they don't even respond. So Yeah, but anyway.
A lot of times what I used to do too is when you're going under an overpass is roll your window down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you'll hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell guys, especially the younger guys, to want to play Led Zeppelin or whatever they play on their tapes nowadays, and they've got it cranked full volume. You can't hear stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And like you go through those under those overpasses, and if there's something up with your trailer, you'll hear it.
You know what? That's a really excellent point you just made, because I have done that where I've heard something, because I do drive with my windows open a little bit, because there's this little annoying little thing that goes on my passenger side, and I have to have the window rolled down to drown it out, or it'll drive me nuts. Once in a while I'll hear something funny, and like you were saying, I wait until I go by these big barricades, these concrete barriers, and then I'll roll the window down more, and I'll turn everything down, and I'll listen. And sometimes I'll hear something funny, and it turned out one of my chains were dragging. But I did not hear that until I went by one of those concrete no posts, those barricades. So that is actually a really excellent point there. When you get under an overpass, or you go through a tunnel, or you are going through an area where you have those concrete barriers, roll everything down and just listen. Because if you don't, because you can hear if your chains are dragging, you can hear if something's going wrong. Yeah. You can even hear an air leak. I've heard that.
I heard an air leak crossing the scale one time, and I thought, oh boy, here we go.
That's not good.
They didn't hear it, so it was okay.
Yeah.
I got it fixed down the road. But on the old Dayton wheels, when the one of the tractors I drove for Reimer, they had the Dayton wheels on them, and the inside lock ring had come off, and it was just like a phone ringing when you went past something. I thought, what the heck is that? And I pulled over, and it was the lock ring that had come off. Of course, the tire was flat, and that was not a good situation. So,
wow. Yeah.
So I mean, things can happen on the road, and you just got to keep your ears and eyes open. But if you're pretty confident, and if you're not, if you're a brand new driver, get your mechanic to come out, or some other driver that's has had a few years under his belt, and say, what do you think of this? Should I be taking this? And I've always said before, you're better to lose your job than kill somebody. So if your company tells you if you don't take it, you're fired, then just say hasta la vista, baby, and move on.
Yeah, again, better safe than sorry. Make sure you thoroughly check your equipment. And like Glenn was saying, trailers are overlooked. They really are, because they figure, oh, this one just came in, it must be fine. Well, don't trust the other driver, because how many times do we deal with a trailer that's missing license plates, and one of the legs on the dolly isn't coming down or something? I mean, people, we'll leave it to the next guy. We'll let the next guy deal with that. Anything you want to...
Yeah, I was just going to say another tip too. If you're working for a company and you're afraid of losing your job, I've always said the way stations are your best friend. You can pull in and say, hey, my boss won't fix this. Can you do a level one on me? And 9 times out of 10, they'll ground the equipment, and you plead ignorant over it. Otherwise, you would get fired.
Yeah.
But that's what I think, anyways. And they can be your best friends, or a state trooper or RCMP or whoever. Just say, hey, So again, it pays to ask. It pays to report.
Yeah. Well, my friend, I think that was well said, and I hope you guys out there, the drivers out there, learned a little something about this. Or you can always contribute to a subject on the Trucker's Corner by sending your emails to truckerglen with the number 10 at gmail.com, truckerglen10 at gmail.com. And if you are watching us on YouTube, feel free to share the video and subscribe to the channel, and don't miss one single episode. Trucker Glen, it's been a pleasure as usual.
Yes, it has.
You have a good one, and we'll see you soon.
You too, Ray.